Hey Nintendo fans and collectors! Lithium here from my channel Nintendo Collecting. On this week's episode of Question Lithium, I tackle the question, are rare items worth their asking price? Also, what is the rarest item in my entire Nintendo collection? And what is the rarest item I have ever found in the wild? Lastly, what rare item would I like to add to my Nintendo collection? All that and more on this week's episode of Question Lithium. Let's press start. This week's first question comes from Ivan Lucena. Hello Lithium, do you consider games such as Hagane, Megaman X2, X3, 7, Sunset Riders, Wild Guns, Dracula X, or other are really worth it at all? It is worth to pay the money they are being sold. I find this a really interesting topic to tackle. Are rare games worth their asking price? You focused predominantly on Super Nintendo games in your question, but I have games from many different consoles that are quite rare and expensive right now, just out for discussion points. Now, I want to first talk about what makes a game rare. Usually a game is rare if the demand is very, very high, but the market is not saturated with that many copies, meaning there's not many copies available. And this can be because the publisher decided not to print that many copies of the game, or the game is so good and such a cult classic, that everyone wants to hold on to their copy possibly for the rest of their lives, which means they're never really selling it, and you can't really find them that easily, which increases the price. As more and more people find out about these awesome games, then the market usually increases value. So that's the other main thing. Are these games worth it when their asking price is insane? First of all, look up the review of the game. Look up some reviews, watch some Let's Plays, figure out if the game is, number one, good, and number two, write down your alley of what you would enjoy while you're playing video games. And the other aspect of it, are you just getting it to collect just because you like collecting games? Then that's something entirely different, but I'm focusing on the gaming aspect first of all. If you are a huge fan, for example, of Mega Man, and you love Mega Man X, it might definitely be worth it to you to pick up X2 or X3, even though those games are now selling for well over $100 with the box and the manual. If you are just simply looking to experience the game on the original console, then maybe all you need to do is just try and pick up the original games, the original cartridges for X, X2, and X3, and maybe that way you're saving some money because you're not buying the instructions and the manuals and just the box and everything that comes with it for a lot of money. But these can be quite a bit to pay for, especially when they're going for more than what they originally released at $50 or $60, which can be crazy. Another thing you might want to consider doing is just to pick up a compilation or a collection. This is the Megaman X collection out for the Nintendo GameCube. It is playing on the original Nintendo GameCube console, and it is something that you might want to add to your collection. So this disc basically is still quite a bit of money, but it's a lot less expensive than buying all three of those, and the entire Mega Man X collection actually, for that matter. Another example of that that's kind of the inverse, though, is the Metroid Prime trilogy on the Nintendo Wii. This probably goes for much more than if you were to buy just the original three Metroid Prime games on the GameCube and on the Wii. This one sells for probably about $100 right now, and you can probably pick up the other three for like 40 or 50 bucks. So maybe make sure you're doing your research and you know what else is out there. The control mechanics on this game are much better, so you have to keep that in mind as well. Other games on the Super Nintendo, to go back to the Super Nintendo in particular, Kirby's Dream Land 3, for example. Maybe you're a huge fan of Kirby. Maybe you know that's one of the best games made for Kirby, especially as a side-scroller. It is incredible. I absolutely love that game. So to me, it was worth the asking price because I love that game. Another game like Final Fantasy III, this is debatably one of the best games ever on any console. So to have that in your collection or to have that to actually experience is incredible, and to me it is worth it. On the N64, there are a few games that are incredibly expensive. Ogre Battle is getting up there, made by Atlas. Harvest Moon 64, that's also getting up there. Sculptor's Cut, for example, Clay Fighter, to me that is not worth paying $1,000 for a complete copy, because it really just has a few extra bonus characters from Clay Fighter 63 1/3. To me, that's not really worth it. Other games that I should probably talk about are something like Mega Man 7 is such an obscure game because it was just so far after Mega Man 1 through 6 on the Super Nintendo, and then after this, Mega Man 8 really wasn't released, I don't think, on Nintendo consoles, which is pretty interesting to have. So maybe this is something you would want to get. Castlevania Dracula X, in particular, this to me is not the best Castlevania game in the entire series. That's probably Symphony of the Night, or maybe Castlevania 4, Super Castlevania 4, also on the Super Nintendo. So the asking price for this game, maybe it's not worth it because there are alternate games that are a bit better if you want to play those. Metal Warriors, another very expensive game for the Super Nintendo, but this is not really a game that I feel was made for me. It is a good to great game, but getting the box, the manual for this, which I still don't have, are incredibly expensive, so I'm not sure when I'll ever get around to doing that. Another game that as soon as I heard of the concept, I figured this is amazing. This is exactly what I'm looking for on the Super Nintendo. This is Evo, and it's supposed to be an incredible game, but it just didn't quite fit together perfectly like the way I wanted it to. Complete copies of this are probably so expensive, it's just not really worth it to me in retrospect, but I'll get to that later on. And then sometimes I just pick up the manuals for the games, sometimes I get the boxes, sometimes I'm just so keen to actually play the game when I find it, say for example, for a really good price on eBay or in the wild, that I'll just get the cartridge because I just really want it to game with. Right now, Xenoblade Chronicles is going for a lot of money, $100, so much that EB Games, basically, or GameStop, reprinted them, opened them, sold them as used copies for more expensive. Really, really dubious marketing strategies, and really terrible, actually, in my opinion. Is this game worth it? Yes, because it's one of the best games on the Nintendo Wii. So really, when you're asking, is the game worth it? I usually have it in mind. Number one, will I actually play the game? Will I like the game? Have I checked out reviews? Have I checked out Let's Plays? Is it for me? Number two, how much is it? Because how much is too much to you? To me, I have never spent anything over $300, and I think on a particular game I've never really spent more than probably about $140 on one game alone. So just keep that in mind. Is the price way too high? And then obviously the last thing, is it resellable? Because if you don't like it, you might want to get rid of it, you might want to try and trade it, you might want to try and see what else you can do with it to try and make your money back. And in most cases with a lot of these games, they are resellable, they are great games, someone will want them in the future. Thank you very much for your unique question, I really enjoyed answering it. Our next question is from, I hope I pronounced this right, J.P. Laranang. What is the rarest item in your collection? What is the rarest item in my entire Nintendo collection? The rarest item that I have in my Nintendo room. I'm going to actually give you two answers. The first one will be something that I know is rare because it was only produced in limited quantities. And the second one is just one that I'm theorizing is probably one of the rarest that I have in my collection for sure. So the first item, with the limited quantities, might be of no surprise to you. This is also my favorite item in my entire collection. This is the Millennium 2000 controller for the Nintendo 64. Metallic silver top, black matte bottom, black buttons and housing for the joystick and D-pad. Millennium 2000 on the top, looking so badass. I love this controller. This was only limited to 1,000 copies, so right now I'm holding one of 1,000 or 0.1% of them in the world, and I'm sure some are damaged or some are actually thrown out. So it's probably less than that, making this the rarest item in my collection. The original one that I bought is this one. It's in good shape. I probably paid just over $100 for it. I know I paid just over $100 for it years ago, and obviously the market's gone up for that. I think I found a great deal, and now it's probably selling for almost $500, maybe more. Gosh, I need to do that N64 pricing guide video. I've been so busy planning for my wedding, I apologize. I need to get around to that video as well. But that probably makes this the rarest item in my entire Nintendo collection. But my second answer, what is actually the rarest, I think, to collectors right now in my collection, and that would be a boxed Jusco N64 console. The story of how I originally got this console, which is likely limited to right now about 10 of these in the box in collectors' hands. You can probably go on eBay right now and find just the console, find a few of them for a few $100s. Maybe you'll be able to find one with the controller as well, which can go for quite a few pennies as well. A lot of money. So if there's only 10 of these in collectors' hands, I'm probably thinking there's way more than that exists. They at least made 1,000 of these, in my opinion. I don't think they'd make that few of them, basically. But I think a lot of them are thrown out. We don't know where they are. They're somewhere hidden in Japan. So right now, this is very highly desirable. Originally, I searched for this item, and I knew I'd only find it on eBay every day, several times a day, for well over a year, I would say. And then one popped up. Oh my gosh, one popped up. I found it in the first 30 minutes of it being posted. It was not listed correctly. It didn't say Just Go or anything like that, so no one else would be searching for it the way I search for items. And I bought it immediately. It was actually only listed for, get this, $100. Wow, what a find. I remember sweating and just being so happy and excited and buying it and kept checking. Did I actually buy that? Did I actually find this console? Incredible. I was so happy. I still am to this day. I found it for that price. Again, that was years ago that I found it, and since then, another collector offered me a ton of money for it. A lot of collectors offered me a lot of money for it. But this collector was very insistent. I just didn't want to break up my set of 16 Nintendo 64 consoles, and the amount of money he was offering me was obscene. I should have taken it. But I didn't. He eventually found this particular box. And this box is not in mint shape. There are a few scuffs to it. There's a bit of damage on the side of the box. And he was proposing basically a straight swap. So a swap would have just been for the top box, because I wanted to keep the styrofoam, and he allowed me to obviously keep the baggies and the manuals and everything else. He was just really looking to get a mint top box of this, which I was basically open to trading if he sweetened the deal. The way he sweetened the deal was with another item that might be one of the rarest ones in the world, and that is a boxed Just Go controller, also for the Nintendo 64. So we did a straight swap for the top of the boxes, but he gave me this controller, basically threw it in for free. Now this one in the box, again, is probably limited to about 10 copies worldwide in the box. Incredible. This one's not in complete mint shape, but still, I was very excited to do a swap, to keep my 16 consoles that I have complete, and to get a controller that I've been looking for forever that's one of the rarest ones in the world. For me, that was an outstanding trade, that was a great trade, and now I have two of the rarest items, I think, in my entire collection. Thank you very much for your question, but make sure everyone comment below what is the rarest item in your entire collection, and how did you get it? Thank you very much for your question. Our third question is from Sean Pilott. What is the rarest item you have found in the wild? The rarest game I have found in the wild. I'm going to kind of combine my answer with the rarest game that actually is supposed to cost an incredible amount of money, and I was pretty dang shocked that I actually found this. So I'm going to give you two different games as answers, kind of because the first one's a bit of a cop-out, and you'll know why in a minute. But the rarest game that I consider I got the best deal for was, and I talked about this earlier in this video, Evo Search for Eden, made by Enix on the Super Nintendo. This game, I would consider it a cult classic. You can go through basically the evolution. Your character goes through metamorphosis of obtaining a tail, or fins, or gills. It's really unique. It's a great idea, but the concept wasn't applied perfectly, but still a great game for the Super Nintendo. How did I get this copy? I actually put my name into my local game store years before they called me, probably about 2 years before they called me saying they have it in, and I forgot all about it. I had no idea how much it would be, but the store called my home, and I was in university at the time, so my mom texted me just saying, "Oh, your copy of Evo is now in." What? Crazy. So I asked them to wait a week. I came home, and when I went to the store, they charged me $10 for this. $10. Usually this cartridge is well over $100. If you have the manual with it, usually that almost doubles that value. And then if you have a box for it, in most cases a more mint box, this one looks quite sun-faded on the front, it's in good condition on the back. But if you actually were to have everything in mint shape, it would usually sell for like $400. Mind you, I only found the cartridge and they called. So that was to me the best rare find I've ever had in the wild. And it was something that I left my name, and 2 years later they called saying it's in, which was absolutely incredible. So really I wasn't doing all the grunt work for that other than putting my name in. And that's why I have another game for an answer. And this game is also from the Super Nintendo, another cult classic. And this one is Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. There is a buy and sell place that I go into all the time, and I was very lucky one day when I went in, and I was going through the games as I do probably twice a week for every week of the year, and I'm never expecting to find anything, and this is the only game that caught my interest, and I just saw it like this,
and it said Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. You know how you start getting really excited when you have that kind of find? It's a bit of a rush. It was crazy, especially considering this was like 4 years ago, maybe more. I look at the price. There's no price on it. I go up to cash. He just says $5. $5 for Super Mario RPG. I definitely paid. I got out of there. I was so pleased. I was so happy. I went home and I plugged it in and I started to play it. So that's maybe not that rare of a game compared to Evo, which to me is definitely a rare game. But this game is a lot better to me and I'm enjoying my experience with that game even more. And for $5, that's crazy. Let me know below, what was your best find you have ever had in the wild for a game or a console or a controller, anything like that? I would love to know your stories as well. Thanks for your question.
Our last question for this week's episode is from Ryan Bisard. Not counting stadium events or Nintendo World Championship, what's the rarest item you would like to own someday?
The rarest thing I would like to add to my collection. Well, if you don't know what the Nintendo World Championship is, that is a cartridge, a single cartridge, that sells usually for over $10,000. If you know my collection, I have never paid more than $300 for a particular item, and that was for a Wii U, brand new console. So I would probably hate myself if I ever spend more than $1,000 on anything, probably over $500 on anything. I want to find a great deal. So you might be thinking this is a box controller for the N64 or a boxed GameCube or the Virtual Boy, which I'm still after to kind of get, even though it gives me a headache. But actually this is one particular game, and it's a game I already own. I can't wait for the day when I actually get a complete copy of Earthbound in mint shape with the box and the guide and the scratch and sniff cards and everything that comes with it. This is my copy of Earthbound. It is a little damaged. It does have some sticker damage here. Obviously there's some fading there. The back of the cart is in good shape, and the cart works really well. But I can't wait for the day where I have a mint copy of this. So many people find this a cult classic. I never got to play it until I was an adult, basically, until recently. It is such a quirky, great game. It is on the Virtual Console for the Wii U for like $10, and you can actually get that manual on the Wii U gamepad, which is really cool. But I want that big box. I want that walkthrough and the scratch and sniff cards, which apparently smell terrible, and I've never smelt them before. Years ago with collecting, I was able to find one of those copies for $300, mint in the box with everything, and I turned it down. I'm kicking myself now, but usually that kind of copy now would sell for like $600. I just can't bring myself to pay that much right now. So I'm really looking forward to the day that I pick up, and I wouldn't know how rare it is, but I think finding it mint with the box, with the walkthrough, and with the scratch and sniff cards, because it's a big box, it's a little unique. That is why this item is probably the highest on my to obtain list for rare items in my entire Nintendo collection. Can't wait for the day until I add that. But comment below, what is the game or the item you are looking the most forward to adding in your collection? And thank you very much for your question.
Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Question Lithium. Be sure to comment below, what is the rarest item in your collection? If you haven't watched last week's episode of Question Lithium, I talked about potentially saving the Wii U and whether or not President Iwata should be fired. If you have any questions for me for future episodes, be sure to follow me on Twitter at CollectNintendo and add the hashtag QLithium. Feel free to fill that like bucket, follow me on Facebook and on Twitter and on Google+, and remember, as always, go collect 'em all.